Hello, everyone. Jeff here with the Image Critique Show. Just this morning, Rick and I had a wonderful opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with Unmesh Dinda of Pix Imperfect. What a delight. We absolutely had a blast. I think you'll enjoy the show. So just sit back and listen in. All right, welcome, everybody. This is going to be a wonderful show today. Just wanted to say hi to my cohort and brother in life here. Rick, how you doing, sir?
Good, Jeffy. How you doing?
I'm excited. We've got a great guest for our talk today, and we're gonna hopefully throw out some great questions, and he'll have a lot of good information to share with us. And we just have to keep from stepping on each other's toes and keep it to a minimum. No, I think this is going to be fun. So we have with us today an up and coming star. I shouldn't say up and coming. He's already hit the market pretty well. Folks are really following Unmesh Dinda with his Pix Imperfect uh, uh, YouTube channel and website. Um, he's going to talk to us about just his life and how he got going. We'll have a bunch of questions for him to chat. So, Unmesh, thank you so much for being a part of this today. Welcome.
It's amazing. Thank you so much for having me, Rick and Jeff. And it's been a long time since I've been on a podcast. So it's pretty exciting for me, and I look forward to talking to you.
Cool. Yeah. Well,
Thank you so
I'm
much.
glad. I would have thought you would have been hit up quite a bit by a lot of folks, but this is good. We feel like we're important then.
And we're
You
really
are, you are special.
we're really excited too, Unmesh, because taking time to be with us, and we know your time is so valuable. As a matter of fact, as we're recording this, we're somewhere around 11 and a half to 12 hours different times. Is that right, time zones?
Absolutely. It's about 9:09 p.m. So
So,
it's
yeah.
fine. I'm used to it. I've always been working with companies in the States, so I'm used to this time zone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you say that you
I
have been.
compensate for it in the morning. Yeah, go
That's
ahead.
good.
And you have you say you have visited the United States several times. So has any of the time shift bothered you? Has it been an issue for you?
It's very easy when you go there because you're always going back in time. But when you come back, that is when the jet lag hits mostly.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
Absolutely. So in that direction, no worries. But when you come back and when you go forward in time, that is where the problem happens. The funny thing is, usually whenever you go there, the flights are in the morning, 4 a.m., 5 a.m.
Oh,
And you reach the same day. If I'm traveling out in the 14th, on the 14th, I'll reach the same day noon due to the
well,
time difference. But the flight took 24 hours. So
That's right.
it's
wow.
funny.
That's
Yeah.
got to be more psychological than physical, I would think, in some cases for
It is.
dealing with
It
that.
is.
Wow. Too funny. Too funny. Well, again, we're so excited that you're coming to, and I just wanted to mention this to our listeners that Unmesh is coming to Colorado Springs next month, May. Well, 16th is a Thursday night, the open show where we invite folks just to come in and listen and meet him and ask some questions. And then that weekend, the 18th and 19th, is a 2-day workshop, and there's still plenty of room for you. So check that out at the ppgcs.com. There's a link there to go and get your tickets and come join us. It's going to be an absolutely wonderful show. I already have my ticket. I think Rick's already set up, so we'll definitely be there for that. So,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Rick, you got a question for the man? I got several of them, but go ahead.
We certainly do. Unmesh, you're such
Yeah.
a young man and you
No
have so
kidding.
much knowledge.
I'm getting old. I used to like that question when I was 23, but right now, no.
So, just how did things start for you? Because Jeff and I mean, we're old timers, so it's something that we just struggled. Well, in my case, struggled to learn the technology and what have you. And I would guess that your generation more or less was born into this technology, but it's still something you obviously had to learn. Where did you get your start in all this?
Well, I have to credit this to my father. So when I was about 8 years old, my father brought in our family's first computer home. So back then it was just one computer and we used to all share it. So he was having problems with his job, and he used to work in a steel plant, and there were layoffs and things were happening. By the way, both my parents are artists. They paint on canvas.
Oh,
So
Great.
not digitally, but they're artists and they have been artists for 30 years. They still
wow,
do shows and exhibitions. Anyway,
great.
so being an artist early on is not a job that kind of pays you well. So you have to do a job, do a main job to sustain it. So he was having problems with his main job. So he wanted to learn desktop publishing. I'm sure that you're aware of desktop publishing back in the
Sure.
days, DTP. So he wanted to do a course on that so that in case he loses his job, he has something to fall back on. And through that course, he was getting into all of these programs like Photoshop, CorelDRAW. It was a thing, and a lot of other programs that don't even exist anymore.
Right.
So he got in the computer, got Photoshop in it, and he introduced me to it. And I was so excited. I got so much into it that I started playing it like a game. So I would take my family vacation photos and change the heads of people, change the
Ah,
skin green, and
Very
maybe
cool.
just swap the heads of my uncle to a cartoon character and do all that kind of fun stuff. So that's how I basically got started doing fun stuff in Photoshop as an 8-year-old. And it
oh.
continued. And in my second year of college, I took things a little more seriously.
So that was how you were taught, just self-taught by whatever tool you could find and play with and
Yes.
figure out how it worked, huh?
And
Right. It's just trial and error, pressing each button to see what they do.
I
People
can
are
only
so afraid of doing
imagine.
that today.
Yeah, and I can only imagine the tools when you first started compared to today.
It's
Uh,
just another e eons apart, I would say. It's a
Yeah.
different century, literally.
yeah.
What was the first version of Photoshop you worked with?
I think it was 6.
Okay.
And yeah, it was Photoshop 6.
Okay.
Mhm.
I got you
Yeah.
beat. I started on version 1.5.
Wow.
It seems like a pad and a pencil compared to what you could do nowadays.
That is just
That's
amazing. That
great.
is just incredible.
Yeah.
It is actually mind-numbing what you can do now
Oh
with
yeah.
all the AI and stuff. It's just crazy to think
Well,
about it.
Well,
also,
and
I have to say I'm impressed watching your videos. And of course I know you're practicing and doing it for the videos, but how easily you go into the different tools. And I think nowadays, I don't know, Rick and I laugh about maybe it's age. I have to stop and think about where would that tool go now? Where did it is
Don't
overwhelming,
worry,
that's for
I'm
sure.
on the same boat. Sometimes I have to go back and watch my old videos when I forget something. So it's fine. We all do.
well, and you know that it's interesting because of all of the knowledge that you acquired. And was it just a natural thing that you took the direction of teaching in addition to whatever you do for your own personal projects?
So at the moment, I just teach. That is what I do full time. And
Okay.
all the other work is branched out of that. Teaching is the root through which I work with Adobe, probably on some projects, some campaigns. I work with some other brands on AI. I would go to a seminar, maybe teach something. So teaching is the main thing, and everything else I do is rooted from it.
I
So
see.
uh, how I got into it was I was always interested in Photoshop and working with my computer. And learning it for me was hard because back then, I'm not sure if there was a book in the States called the Photoshop Bible. There used to
Yes.
be a series of books that used to come like Maya Bible, Photoshop Bible, this thick book. And my father had that. And the only way I could learn Photoshop was from that book or just pressing each button. And it was hard for me. So when I learned, I wanted to, and when I was getting into the internet in my second year of college and trying to find YouTube videos, internet was very expensive because I didn't have a broadband or wired connection. You had to use the phone connection, and it was like, I don't know, $5 per GB. So you had to think before clicking a video whether I should watch it or not.
Oh, wow.
These days,
Wow.
everything is unlimited. So, and also there were only courses, not a lot of videos on YouTube. So I wanted to give back. I wanted people like me who didn't have access to creative education. I wanted to give back and, create something free for them to just get started. So that's how it started. That's how I started my YouTube channel. So many more stories involved in how I wanted to help my classmates and to help them with their project in college. I made a YouTube video. It's still there. It's in Hindi, it's not in English. And that's how the journey basically mostly started.
Oh, wow. That's a really interesting story.
Yeah, and we thank you for all of your all of your hard work because it is a very I have to commend you on how many videos we sit and look at videos and in our lives and such, and there's so many poor, bad, oh my God, people don't know how to, they don't have a presence, they don't have a voice, their content's horrible, man. You've nailed it all. And the fact that you're always smiling and you're laughing at yourself and that's just so entertaining. I think I'm sure that that has a lot to do with your following. So
Yeah,
uh,
my impression of your videos and your style is just it's so polished, and that's what we really appreciate.
Thank you. I'm sure you can relate that, but it's not all that. It's not always
right.
been perfect. And even I'm working on that right now. The thing is, I'm sure you can relate that when you look at your work, you've been a photographer for decades. So when you look at your work from your early days, obviously you would laugh, right? So how
Oh
uh,
yeah.
how
Exactly.
crappy our works can be. The same way when I look at my first videos, it just makes me laugh. So I have to say that creating videos mostly taught me a lot about communication. I was not able to speak English that well. And
Well, you
even now,
certainly do
my
now.
English has gone better than it was before.
I'd say no problem now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's great. Very cool.
Well, you hit on a word that triggered something in my mind, communication. Um, and you obviously have a lot of subscribers, a lot of followers. I'm understanding somewhere in the millions.
5 million right
Wow,
now.
wow, that's
Sorry, we
exciting.
don't mean to laugh at that. It's impressive and like, holy crap.
Obviously, uh, it's almost an impossibility to be in contact with each one of them. But are there any of them that your students that maybe have really, how can I say it, success stories of your students maybe that
From his
really kind of
education.
surface for you? Maybe where they started and practically knowing
There
nothing.
have been many messages, and sometimes I take a screenshot of it. I maintain an Evernote, so I put all my notes and every thought in Evernote. I'm sure you know about the app,
Yeah,
right?
oh yeah.
So whenever I need some inspiration, I I look into it. Whenever I need some ideas, I look into it. So it's useful for my career too. So whenever I have any kind of idea from anywhere, ideas can come from any place, right? I note it down on Evernote so that it doesn't have to be organized. The great part is it is searchable. So if I want to search
Right.
something, it can look into it. So in Evernote, I have made a notebook for inspiration. Whenever I get a message like that, I take a screenshot and put it in that notebook. So when I'm feeling low, which is normal for all of us, I just
Certainly.
go through that. So yes, there have been many messages. People say, "Today I have a job because of you." And one of the more touching ones was that I made a video about how can you process a negative film at home with Photoshop. So you take a picture of the negative film, you take it into Photoshop, you flip it, you invert it, and do the color correction. I made a video on that. And one of the messages was that I took a picture of my grandparents and just showed it to processed it and showed it to my parents, and it made them cry. So messages like this really make my day, especially the messages that say that their career has been set up because of the things that they learned. So that
Wow.
means the
That's
most to me.
great.
As a teacher, that has to be so fulfilling for you.
It is. It definitely is.
Yeah, like you say, it's just a little bit, but just knowing that you've contributed to helping just somebody see something that they could do differently, and then of course turning that into a great story like that. And that's kind of fun. All the years Rick and I, we laugh and add up how many years the two of us have been in business, and we're both second generation photographers. So our knowledge is great. I sound like I'm bragging. I don't mean to be, but we've had such wonderful teachers, and it's the same thing as anytime I would turn around and do something, my dad would, show me how to do, whether it was doing a portrait or working in the darkroom or something, and I would come out with a print that was what he was thinking he was teaching me. He was so excited. I mean, it was like a little kid, like I got up and walked for the first time kind of a thing. So definitely,
Wow.
definitely important to your career and your mindset. Yeah, yeah, that's good for you to get
And
those.
a lot of what you do today, I'm sure you owe it to him, right?
Absolutely, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what I found so interesting about the correlation between the old time dark room, because Dad started in 1947. And back in that era, 40s, 50s, 60s, if you owned a studio, you had a dark room. I mean, you just did your own printing. And it was
Absolutely.
so interesting for me because I grew up in the dark room that when I switched over to the some of the tools in Photoshop, I said, gosh, we used to do this in the dark room, the
Right.
regular, the dodging, the burning
Yeah.
type of thing. But there's now, Unmesh, just tools there that were laborious in the old-fashioned darkroom days that are just um, not much to it once you learn it, of course.
Mhm.
Uh, so addressing that, can you talk a little bit about the tools and how they've evolved from the earlier versions of Photoshop?
What has been happening is that, first of all, tools are just getting better in a way that they're making your work kind of non-destructive. As you
Uh,
worked in the dark room,
Right.
once you, I'm not sure how things work in the dark room. I'm just guessing you're going to be applying some kind of chemicals and stuff like that, dip stuff into things. Again, I'm a noob into this. I'm so sorry about it. So once you're done, it's done, right? There is no going back.
Correct.
Correct. Yeah.
But the way the tools have developed in Photoshop that is that you can always go back, and you can not just go back, but you can go back and adjust it in a way that you want it. Because sometimes we make something and it looks fantastic. It looks like the best thing in the world. And then the next day when you wake up and get back to it and you think like, what the hell was I thinking?
Isn't that true?
Yes.
So true. Yeah.
We have the
And you're
ability
at
to go there.
You're absolutely right because and destructive. That's such a good way to look at it because you're right. When you're in the old time darkroom, if you do a dodge or you do a burn or a color burn, it's there. But
It's
man, thank
always
goodness for layers.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Layers and adjustment layers.
Yes.
So
It's a blessing
it
for sure.
it came a long way and it's been a big thing. Other changes in technology definitely is making tools faster, making removing things that were impossible possible. And
Mhm.
it's just been a blessing. And with generative AI, I think it is the biggest Photoshop invention since layers. Um, it is, have you had the opportunity to try generative AI or
Yeah.
generative fill
A
in
little bit.
Photoshop?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I mean, it's just things that you could not replace or remove. It's just insane. And I know there is a divided opinion about this in the photography community, and there's going to be. So that is a hot debate for sure. But there is no denying the fact that it just dropped like a bomb.
Yeah, and you know what, Unmesh, I have to think you're right. Whatever side of the fence you are on the AI thing, uh, my perception is it's here and it's here to stay.
Absolutely. We got to live with that, and there's no other way.
Right.
And
yeah.
people say that AI is going to take our jobs. AI is going to make some of these work non-relevant. But I think that AI is not going to take your jobs. Uh, the people who are equipped, people who use AI definitely will. So it is important that we
Good
um,
point.
stay ahead in the game, keep learning new things, and not let ignorance kick in. Like, I'm gonna be just my way. I'm not even gonna look what is happening. It's fine to even just continue to shoot film. That's all right. That's a style. But I believe that you should not ignore it, at least.
Yeah.
Well put. Yeah.
And I think that's been a subject in whatever the actual topic was over the years. There's always something new that you're right. If you don't, maybe not as big as AI, but if you don't embrace it and learn it, it's going to trample you. And because your competition, in our sense, would definitely learn it. And then now, what are you going to do?
Right.
And
Yeah,
our
and
biggest. Oh, go ahead,
go
Rick.
ahead, Jeff.
I'll say our biggest thing nowadays is Rick and I are both very much supporters of image competition. That's why we have our show and PPA competitions and such. And man, what a huge topic that is because it's, well, AI is not photography, so you can't use it. And how do we detect it? And it's got everybody freaked out. So I don't know where to go with that.
It,
Well,
it's
and
controversial, that's for sure.
yeah, and you alluded a little earlier, Unmesh, about your earlier videos, and Jeff and I, as we look at our earlier photographs and have to kind of chuckle at them and
Cringe.
But the thing that you know, is that we feel that we've all grown as we've progressed in this industry, and to that point of AI, as we look back on our earlier images and where we feel that maybe we have progressed, but there's kind of a term that keeps popping in my head: if we're not growing, we're dying.
Absolutely. Um, I heard this line on a song, and it says that if you don't evolve, you'll evaporate.
Oh,
So
That's good.
that is good.
I like that. I think it's true, especially now how things move so fast, especially in this world that we're talking about here in photography and AI and such, that if you don't stay with it, you will be absorbed by it and be nothing. So
at the same time, don't you think it's also important to kind of maintain your own style? A lot of people get into the idea of always chasing the trends. And in that, they kind of lose their identity. We don't want that either. So you
Right.
need to be who you are. And at the same time, look at what's happening and maybe embrace it in a way that aligns with your identity.
very well said. I think that's, especially I know from my point of view of coming through the years and having, my dad had his style. I've developed, I think, a style. I know Rick did his father. And we see so many competition images that are just like the next one. And I think it's the thing nowadays is to find the best picture and let's copy that. What
Mm.
kind of
Yes.
encouragement do you have for people to do their own thing? What do you kind of preach in that sense?
So I'm sure you can relate with this. Sometimes when you go through social media, Instagram, or any place, or even an exhibition, you look at a photo and you're like, hmm, this is captured by Lindsay Adler, no doubt. Or this is captured by one of my friends, Glenn Dewis. I can tell it is from him. And it speaks a lot and it's a music to their ears because they have developed a style that I don't even have to look at their name. I can
Right.
look at their photo and can recognize. I can look at my parents' paintings and say it's done by my mother. There is no doubt. I don't even have to look at the name. So building your identity really builds your brand because there's nobody who can replace you. You are uniquely yours. So that
Absolutely.
is why it's important. Be the unique you so that you become somebody that is irreplaceable. If you're chasing trends, you're just like the other person. If somebody wants, if somebody wants Jeff Johnson styled photos, they're gonna get Jeff Johnson style photos. If they want somebody that looking trendy, they can hire anybody. So it's important for me, at least, to build your own brand and identity.
It's good to hear.
Yeah.
There are so many folks that all the workshops I do, and a lot of them are um, landscape or fine art based kind of themes, and we do the Photoshop stuff, and then somebody will send me an image of an image we shot on the scene at the workshop, and then they pretty much looks like it could have been one of my images. I think, well, I guess I taught them well. Number two, I got to figure out how to do something different now because they're just following the steps and like not being creative and taking the knowledge. I know Rick and I have talked about that a lot, of how learn the knowledge, learn the techniques of all the old masters that portrait artists that we love,
Right.
but let's twist it and do it our own thing, right, Rick? Isn't that
Yeah, and what I
conversation?
appreciate, Unmesh, is obviously you've got the technical side of it nailed in your teaching, but I'm really sensing your philosophical side, and I think that's so important for a teacher to communicate with their students, because it goes beyond, in my opinion, technique, whether it's photography or Photoshop or any of the arts or just life in general. That to have a passion for what you're doing, and in that passion, I think your personal style will be revealed. Is the way is
Thank
the
you
way.
for thank you for noticing that. I'm moved. And unfortunately, this philosophical side has resulted into me having very few friends. But that's all right.
We'll be your friends, Unmesh. Don't worry about
Thank you.
that.
Appreciate that.
That's too funny. Well, kind of another thought I've had. So obviously you've gotten to be very popular and very well versed in Photoshop, Lightroom techniques and those sort of things. What about your own personal, you obviously started more your career in the software. Do you shoot? Do you have photography? Because a lot of us, where we're coming from, the group you're coming to visit, we're
Mhm.
all basically photographers, and then we
Right.
use the tools to finish the
I've
product.
had
You're kind of coming from that other angle.
other side, absolutely.
Yeah.
I um I started with photography in college in my first, so I did a bachelor's in mass communication and advertising. So photography was a big part of it. So that's how I got started and got more into Photoshop. Photography, my first interaction with photography was when I was just 3 years old. And I'm sure you would know that. And that is, my father had a Kodak camera, the one with a fixed lens. They don't even have a lens, it's just fixed Kodak
Right.
film camera, small.
Right.
And I was the one always taking photos, and all the photos surprisingly came out good. And not, I wouldn't like to blow my own trumpet, but the photos always came out good.
Good.
The family photos, the travels, the beautiful destination photos, all of them came out good. So that was my first interaction. I started with photography a little bit commercially on my first and second year of college, but then I got completely into Photoshop and completely into teaching photographers actually how to make their workflow more efficient, have better quality, and mostly create something that they're proud of. So I got more into the coaching side of things, looking at photographers' works, asking what they want, and going from there.
Cool. Yeah, that's quite rewarding too when you can, especially when you're able to learn how to deliver the message, how to teach, how to share and create that opportunity for people, and then have them show you that they heard you, they used their talents and were successful at it. I think that's what Rick and I are doing a lot now, is that we realize that there's a lot of people that want to learn. Let's teach them in a way that they can use it and work it to their benefits. So it's not about we're patting ourselves on the back, and I don't see you doing that by any means, but definitely rewarding, isn't it?
It is always.
Yeah, and to that point, gosh, with as many students as you must be working with, the levels of talent, if you will, or knowledge of just must be so vast. I mean, from the
It
very
is vast. And one
beginner.
of the things with online, teaching online or creating any kind of videos online is that you have to understand that there is no possible way. And I guess in real life as well, just look at your family tree. Anyway, I'm not trying to digress. You're never going to be able to make everyone happy. It is just not possible, no matter what you do, no matter what you teach. So sometimes again, nothing negative. I think most people in the world are absolutely kind. But sometimes I would make a video and people would say it's too fast, or somebody would say it's too slow, somebody would say it's too long or too short. And this happens because there are people who have a vast range of expertise level.
Mhm.
Somebody
Right.
who's a beginner wants it slow, step by step. Somebody who's a professional watching the same thing wants it faster. So I have to, it is kind of a challenge to find a middle ground and find something that works for all.
Well, don't you kind of find that you just have to put out your best product the way you do it best, and then people have to accept it that way or not? Because you can't adjust and teach for every single person. Obviously, if
Right.
you have a beginner class, that's different than an advanced class, but
I
it,
agree with you.
yeah,
I agree with you, especially if it says a beginner class, definitely it is taking it slow. I have actually a lot of videos for beginners, and those are usually long. And even if it's a long video, sometimes a video is, let's say, 20 to 30 minutes. But if I had just kept the camera rolling, it would have taken me 3.5 hours.
Wow.
I have to edit a lot of the parts out where I'm just working with the brush, taking my little time. The thing is, I don't know if it was Benjamin Franklin, but it was something else. I'm not sure. And he or that great person said that if I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. So it's easy
yeah.
to keep rambling and it's easy to make the content long, but I try to keep it as short as possible. Even when people say it's too long, but it's not really. If it's a 20-minute video, I probably worked 4 hours on that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Wow.
Well, that's good to
Uh,
hear. And I will say, from sitting and listening to watching your videos, you do hit the points and make them understandable and not drag it on. I've watched some of them that's like, okay, come on, get to the point, not you, man, you nail it. So that's why it's fun to watch your stuff. So,
Well, you
yeah.
know, it's interesting when you had that little quote about the letter, and we were just talking about style. I'm not sure. I'm thinking that was Mark Twain because that sounds like his style,
I
and that's
see.
just
Right.
exactly what we were talking about.
Thank you. It is.
Um, you know, Photoshop is evolving, it seems, every minute. how do you keep up with the new tools, the latest versions? Obviously, you're associated, are you, with Photoshop, with Adobe?
I work with Adobe, so in a way, not in a way that it pays me a lot of money to work as an employee. No,
Right.
but I definitely do promotions for them, paid promotions and sponsorships, those kind of things. But that is one way of kind of keeping track of what is happening. If there's something big that they're launching and they want me to be a part of it, want me to spread the word, sometimes happens that I get to know about it. And if it's a promotion, I always mention in the video that this is a promotion. Besides that, when I do something on my channel, when I teach something on YouTube, I have a list. I actually have a list of the things to do to generate ideas.
Mhm.
So before making any videos, or let's say I have made a couple videos, and after that I have some time because it requires creating content does require a lot of research. And after making, I don't know, about 900, 950-ish videos,
Wow.
Wow.
it just it is kind of challenging to come up with something new. So I have a list of things that I can go through that can give me new ideas. And one of the things that is, just typing Photoshop and looking at what is new, what new tools are coming up, or just look at the comments, what people want to learn. And then again, looking at Adobe's website, if there has been anything launched, and looking at different updates. So there's a list I go through to kind of keep up with everything.
Very good. Very good.
That sounds like a lot of time concerned
And kind of
involved.
where I was going with that direction as well is, do you find yourself kind of in an advisory position to Adobe, making suggestions about maybe this tool or that tool, or just thoughts that come to you as you work that say, this would be a good idea for Adobe to consider?
I'm not sure if Adobe likes it, but I'm very, very blunt with my opinions on new tools. So whenever something new comes up, I review it unbiased on YouTube. And I'm very grateful to be working with Adobe because they take it positively. And some of the people
Good.
who work there who create Photoshop, um, I'm glad to call them friends, and they reach out to me that, hey, we watched your video. We definitely like that you said this or that. And so it's a great group of people who make Photoshop.
That's wonderful. You
Yeah.
know, I just no one's lower tech than me, Unmesh. And anytime I sit at Photoshop, I am just in total amazement of the brain power that created that
And
pro and how it evolves. It's
it's been
fantastic.
years and years of evolution that
And I think my appreciation comes, and I just bet Jeff would agree with me, because of our um, uh, beginnings in the traditional
Yeah.
dark room, because that's really where, what it's all about to me anyway, because I'm just using some tools and thinking, man, we used to do this in the dark room.
Yeah.
how does it feel
Exactly.
like having it at your convenience coming from that background?
Oh gosh. Again, a feeling of amazement, a feeling of not having to smell the chemicals,
Yeah.
an appreciation for that.
Not
Uh,
having brown fingernails from the staining of the dyes.
right, right. From the fixer, et cetera. And in our busiest time of the year, we were doing both black and white and color printing and processing. And there were some times that we would do 3 or 4 mixes of chemistry a day because they had to be replenished. And
Yeah.
but it's just amazes me at what can be done, and with my meager experience, and I can only imagine how you impart that with your students, and that's something I really appreciate.
What's crazy about Photoshop is that you can do whatever you have in your mind.
Yes.
Like literally, if you want a dramatic cloudy scene, but the photo you have captured is not that, you can get that happen. If you want sparkles over your photo, or if you want your subject to be in a fantasy land, you can have that. So whatever is in your mind, you can have that. What I want people to understand is that Photoshop is just a tool to express themselves. Uh, they don't have to learn Photoshop in a way that I have to learn this software. No, you have to learn it in a way that you can do whatever you want according to what you have in your mind. That's just it.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. When I've helped folks with Photoshop or Lightroom, they get so stuck in the technical aspect of it.
Right.
So you have to
Absolutely.
know that, you have to know the tools, but you have to know what they do so that you can use them to your advantage and not use them because they do this kind of a thing.
I
That's
agree with you
do you hear that from your followers quite
all
a
the
bit?
time. I'm not sure if you would agree with me on this. You're open to disagree. But as you said, some of your students get stuck up in technicalities. I've seen that in Lightroom. They don't want to clip the highlights. They're very careful about that. They don't want to clip the shadows. Very careful about those settings. But then when you go back and look at some award-winning photos throughout the century, I think there was a photo of you would be very aware of it. No, workers sitting on a very high-rise
Yep.
construction
Yeah.
site.
Oh,
Yep.
sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. So photos like that, you would see where the sky is completely clipped, or
Yeah.
maybe there are no details in the shadows. Yet they're some of the most iconic photos ever
Absolutely.
existed.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't matter if you have to look at it in a way that um, your artistic vision is. That's just it. You don't have to worry too much about clipping. Now, it's important that you learn it, you understand what it is and what it does, but you don't have to follow it. Break the rule. Just get over with the rule of thirds. I mean, it's a good guideline, but that's all
Right.
right.
But that's all it is a guideline. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and I think we talk about that a lot because, like I said, Rick and I were or are judges, jurors for PPA and competitions, and both our fathers were. So we've learned that, what do I want to say, more of a needle point of view of, and it's kind of hard when you sit in the competition, you look at something, you're kind of looking for what's wrong, and
Mm,
if you don't remember the impact that it had as the print came up in front of you, however it happens, I think we're losing out. And I see so many articles and so many things online where it's all about the technical aspect, and yet you can look at the image and you just get this, oh, what a wonderful feeling kind of
such a
thing.
good image, right?
Yeah.
That's what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, and going back to that photograph, Unmesh, that you were talking about, the workers up on the steel beams of
Yeah,
the
that's right. Right.
skyscraper, and I have to say, they were trained to be there to work to do that work. But man, what about the photographer that had to be up there,
Right.
and
It's
with a
just
large
something I
view camera
wonder.
and a view camera to boot, not a small 35 millimeter.
Yeah.
And
Good
it's
point.
not in today's day and age that you point and you shoot. It had to be very difficult to capture for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and an iPhone probably could have done a better quality image than what that would show. But
Right. It is the moment. It is what it, depicts is what matters.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
hey, kind of change and pace just a little bit. Any kind of behind the scenes stories or funny stories that you have kind of made you laugh in your recordings or doing a program for people? Anything that the stuff that happens behind the lens, so to speak, that you can share with us?
Um, uh, in these 7 years, I guess, there have been so many things. It's hard to pinpoint one. There can be some great things like going on a flight and the flight attendant just coming up to me and saying, I am meeting a celebrity today, even though I'm traveling economy class. So, so,
That's cool.
so that was fun. Anyway,
Wow.
and then, one of the pilots saying, I watched your Photoshop videos. So
Really?
that's
That's
great.
cool.
That's a great feeling. And then there are some frustrating things, as in my early days, what I used to do, I used to shoot 3 to 4 videos at once. So I would sit in the morning and I would shoot 4 videos back to back and then edit that. So that gave me a lot of flexibility, right? You set up everything, you shot everything at once, and then you edit and you release maybe three in a gap of 2 or 3 days. One time I shot 4 videos. Everything was going fantastic. I don't have an assistant. I do it myself. I turn on the camera and do it myself. So when I watched that video, there was something on my teeth for the entire 4 hours of video
Oh
footage.
no.
And more than that, that was one of the most frustrating things. And just for that little thing on the teeth I had to do, everything all over again.
Oh my. And
Yeah.
And
that
things
was
like
gonna
this has happened all the time.
be, and
Well, that's the
that was
good or
actually
bad of working alone, right?
that
Right.
was actually going to be my follow-up question as far as support, what kind of support team you have, but you answered that question, so you pretty much do it all, huh?
I do. And the other, again, computers fail, cameras fail, and I've had my fair share of, um, working all throughout these years and having to record things all over again, especially if it's a long shoot and having to do that again. That's fine. In all these years, I don't know if you have had what experience you've had with memory cards, but
Yeah.
a lot of people suggest that you should get an expensive memory card. You should get this or it will fail. You should. Not once. I use the cheapest memory cards available. Not once have they failed. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed
I was
right
gonna
now.
say, yeah, knock on wood, right? Well,
Knock
Carrie,
on wood.
nowadays, however much money you spend, a lot or little, it's digital, it's electronic, it's computers. There's going to be a failure. I mean, there
There
was in when we had cameras that were Hasselblads and Rollies that were just all mechanical. They fail. I mean, it happens. So,
It happens. So you got to be prepared for it. As far as support goes, no, I do it all myself. From, planning the video, to making the lesson plan, to shooting the video, and then editing the video, designing the thumbnail, writing the article for it.
wow,
And all of this I love to do. What I don't like to do so much, and again, I love people. I don't hate humanity, but I don't like responding to emails. That is the hardest things for me because if I don't respond to emails for 2 days, it shoots up to 150. And I'm talking about emails that are important. There's another general email that has about 15,000 emails. So it's it's
wow,
it's a hassle. It's hassle for me. Yeah, but I do have one person who has been very much key in who I am today, and a great friend, a person I met in Los Angeles and has been my friend for 6, 7 years. And she got to know me when she started learning Photoshop and she got into that. And she has been managing as an admin inside of social media to responding to comments and managing people, the admin of my group. And she has been doing that for 5 to 6 years. I've offered to pay her, offered a lot of things, but she says, I love you like my son and I would do it for you. I love to do it for
wow.
you. So I build
Wow.
all of these genuine connections that mean the world to me.
That's very cool. And isn't that I think I know Rick and will agree with this one. That's kind of I think one of the big benefits of this, how the world has gotten small, the communities are building it, how many people are thinking the same and just absolutely love each other for what we're doing and supportive. And that's a very cool story to share, to have somebody like that in your life to
I
she's
am
doing a huge thing,
absolutely.
right? Yeah.
It's a huge thing. And from then, the connection developed. I visit her. Uh, travel 22 hours, take 22, 24 hours of flight just to visit her family.
Nice.
She's family now to me.
Very
So it just means the world and, building connections like this. I do have very few people in my life, but the people that they're there, they would, I would do anything for them.
very cool.
Well, that defines success when you have
Does.
people that go beyond friends and or family. That speaks a lot um of your connection with them and they with you. So you're a blessed man, my friend.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Appreciate
And the fact that he's only what are you, 17 now?
it.
The fact that he's just
I wish.
doing the career. I mean, where do you think this is going to go? Are you just going to kind of continuing with what you're doing as the everyday, or do you have some ideas or plans to change or do something different in the future?
So as I'm coming to Colorado Springs, I'm planning on, and again, I'm just talking to you and sharing this info for the first time on the internet,
Cool.
is that I'm planning on creating a community. I'm not sure how this is going to pan out or how this is going to work. I already have one with Patreon, but I'm going to try to make it even better because it's hard to respond to everybody. It's hard to
Right.
get in touch with everybody, but I'll try to find a way to, develop that community that I have and take it forward in a way. People who are interested into Photoshop, give them live coaching, and take it in that direction where there is a whole community where people help each other, where they have me as an access, and they also have the materials, the kind of videos that they can watch. So
Right.
kind of developing a support system for people. So that is my goal right now.
That's great to hear. Yeah, well, when you get something solid in a direction, let us know. We're happy to share with our audience. And we're not that big yet with people, but we've been around for a while. We got a lot of people that know us and are looking for advice, places to go for more information. So we'll be glad to share whatever you do with them. So
Thank you. Really
absolutely.
appreciate that. Still kind of working through that idea. But
Right.
right now, what I have plans for um, is just to continue creating videos, help reach as many people as possible in teaching of Photoshop. But I would say in the recent years, the number has reduced for the people who want to learn Photoshop.
Really?
And yeah, it has been very much. And the reason is AI. Um, Earlier, if even if people had to, create a passport size photo or do something very simple with their photo, or just, some websites ask you to reduce the file size, right? Reduce the image size, it had a 1 MB limit, so on and so forth. People would learn Photoshop to do that.
Right.
And now you can easily do it with apps, platforms, online. There are a dozen tools available. Automatic image editing has become easier for the basics. So right now, the people who learn Photoshop are only professionals. The general people who had to learn a little bit of Photoshop to get their work done, they're not learning Photoshop, but definitely professionals have to. It is the industry standard. So
Mm.
that's why that audience has kind of slightly gone. I don't know how the future looks like, but that's how it looks like right now. There's this hype about AI and different tools, but it's going to saturate soon, is what I believe.
Good point. I didn't think of it that way. The fact that there's so much help with AI and how many people have had to go and learn some sort of a photo editing software just so they can put their videos out there, and they're not photographers or videographers. They just are doing the social media, this stuff. I've noticed a lot of the stuff I get is so automated that all you do is put your image in there and it's done. Uh, which I think is good though, don't you think? Because now it's really giving you the people who are more interested in learning what you have to teach. It's
It
really
is,
done.
um, well, it's not for me to decide if it's a good thing or a bad thing. It is just is.
True.
Um, so, but again, if you want to have the control, if you want to have the full control of how you want your photo to be, then you have to learn the professional tools. Then you have to, even the camera has auto modes, aperture priority modes, but you have to learn how to work with all of those three things to be able to do auto better, right?
Yeah,
So,
very true.
same thing with Photoshop. If you want your photos or whatever you create, digital design, illustration to look exactly the way you want to have all the creative control, you have to learn the professional tools. There is no other way.
Yeah,
With
agreed.
AI, you just type in a prompt and you just keep your fingers crossed and you hope for a good result. And it's never exactly what you want. It is
What you
not
envisioned, right?
right. It's the AI is mostly imagination. So,
Well,
yeah.
and Unmesh, you obviously have a global following. Do you find any particular country, culture, what have you, that I don't know, is maybe more in tuned, maybe naturally to this, or is Photoshop so universal that there's really no cultural barriers or language barriers or anything like that?
Interestingly, if I look at my top 5 countries, um, top 5 audiences, definitely language plays a major role. I speak in English, so if there are countries where people don't speak English at all, obviously the number would be less. But if I look at my top 5 countries, India and US is always fighting for the number one position.
Interesting.
Sometimes India is number one, US is number two. Sometimes US is number one, India is number two. And from then on, there is Germany, UK, and the other countries. But if you compare it with the country's population, it's more or less the same. It is a fully global thing. What I see with different with my content is that a lot of content on YouTube, age group is something that is key. 13 to 18 years of age people are usually more, and then 18 to 25 are also large for most of YouTube. But for my content, interestingly, 25 to 35 and 35 to 45 age group of people are a lot for some reason.
Huh.
That is what I appreciate because I know that mature people watch my content and I'm happy about it. And again, there are also a lot of people who are more than 65 and still watch my content. So that is a big thing for me.
We're there.
We're there.
Oh, thank
Well,
And
don't
then
you think,
some.
don't you think that also goes to saying what people are learning it for? I mean, I'm thinking some of those middle age groups are probably in a profession where they're looking for the help to do better business, to offer their clients more.
I realized that when I went to I was in PPA last year,
Right.
Imaging USA, sorry.
Yeah.
And then many other conferences. And then when people meet me, they're mostly, interestingly, they're mostly portrait photographers. And they're like, I've seen your video. That video helped me a lot. And I'll watch this. That technique really helped me. So they're mostly photographers who really need help. But
Yeah.
there are a good fair share of people. I look at my Patreon, people who actually pay to be a member. A good share of people are hobbyists as well, especially in the higher age groups of people. So that is also a kind of thing. And the hobbyists is something I see only in the higher age groups,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of people who are seeking help too, running a photography business.
And I
You
would
know,
say that a lot of the people that come to my workshops are retired. They have the income, they have the time. And I love it because they're so much more open to learning. They don't come in with a notion of what this is supposed to be, or I saw this on a video, this is how it
What
has.
am I getting out of this? And it should
Exactly.
be a good return on investment. So that is not there.
Well
And
said.
the best part is they have fun doing things.
Yes. Yeah, that's what we're all about, is having fun. So
well, and you know that I think a lot of those non-traditional, if you'd like to call them that, that aren't really doing it for a living or as a business, they don't have the pressure of
Right.
producing because they have to pay a bill. You know,
Absolutely. I
it's a
agree.
pastime for them.
They really enjoy doing that. And people like that are usually very, very, very nice to me.
well, they're less critical, or they're more they want to learn what you have to say instead of telling you whether you're doing it right or not.
Well, I find
And
it. Go ahead, Unmesh.
I was
Go ahead.
just saying that what I like is that people of that age group, and I wouldn't say that generation because people are still there. They don't belong to a generation. But I believe that they're really sweet in a way that they take the time to write to me. They take the time to type in a nice comment with perfect grammar, which I always appreciate.
It's good to
And
hear.
I like reading them. And people who are 13 to 17, usually I'm not demeaning them. And they have their different styles and they say,
Sure.
nice work, bro. Nice dude. And that,
Well, at least
Dude,
they
you
said
nailed
something,
it,
right?
dude.
yeah,
That is funny.
right.
That is too funny.
You know, I find it really interesting too that in all this evolution, and we touched on it earlier about a certain generation, the younger generation that has really been born into all of this technology. Gosh, my grandkids teach me so much just about my cell phone. Um, But I find it interesting that Photoshop is, for some time now, has been introduced in the high school levels and probably even in the lower levels of school. So the kids, this was many, many years ago when I was just kind of getting my feet wet in Photoshop, and I had just learned about the warp tool, and
Mm.
I was photographing a young man, and his mother was saying, you know, that we need to get in to do a family portrait. She says, but the classic thing that you hear from mothers when it comes to family portraits, I got to lose some weight. And the kid he was a high school senior, and he says, "Oh, don't worry about that, Mom, because he can just use a warp tool." And I thought, "Oh my gosh, this
Oh,
kid knows about the warp tool, and I just learned about it a week
when
ago."
was this? When was this?
Oh gosh, I'd have to say 10, 12 years ago, something like that, maybe.
Oh, I see. Okay. You say that that's an interesting thing because when I was introduced to Photoshop and maybe I don't know the year, one of the first things that absolutely blew my mind was the Liquify tool,
Yeah.
which does that thing right now.
Right.
Perp also does, but Liquify was the thing that used to make people slim or
Yeah.
Yes.
change
Yeah.
the shape, and they still do.
And
So
my
yeah.
apologies, Unmesh. I said warp and I meant liquefy. So
Okay.
I've exposed myself as to the level of expertise I have.
No, that's fine.
But
Warp
it
does
was the
this. You can do the
liquefy.
same thing with warp. You can do the same
Yeah.
thing. That's
That's too
fine.
funny. So unless you have to understand this too, that we have this laugh in our state. We have Rick earned just a coveted award here a little while back. It's called the Avalos Tech Award. Because Rick has always been, there's been high tech, low tech, and then Avalos Tech.
Okay.
They actually even presented him with a silver mouse that had it printed on there as an award one time for achieving the
Wow,
Avalos Tech.
is that even really a thing?
No,
No.
it is now. It is here.
Well, and when Jeff and
Congratulations.
I are together or we're talking to our groups or giving these programs, I also often tell them if they want to know anything about anything technical, call me and I'll give you Jeff's phone number.
That's super funny.
Yeah, a lot of what we're doing. I mean, and not for us to brag, but we've been around for a while. Like I said, we both had fathers who were very successful, um, gave programs, were judges for PPA, and we've followed in their footprints. And then also not just from their knowledge, but they knew somebody. If I asked a question and my dad didn't have the answer, he knew somebody to call. So we've been extremely fortunate in this world of photography of our knowledge database. And that's really all we're trying to do is to turn around. But hey, it's got to be fun along the way, otherwise it's not worth it. And that's kind of what we're all about. You listen to one of our shows and Rick throws jokes in there and we laugh and make comments and it's just, hopefully it's all done but we're right on the cutting edge of being, pretty couple of smart asses. So, but it's fun. It's fun.
It is fun talking to you. And again,
Good.
I'm glad that you acknowledge the kind of contribution your father had in
Yeah,
what you do. And it's something I always, give credit for, even though my field is different from what they do. But still, I was born in a home of artists. So definitely, I saw a few things. I got inspired. And
sure.
what I appreciate the most, my parents supported me in what I wanted to do.
That's
A lot
important.
of parents want their kids to be their doctors, lawyers, and all the,
Right,
general things, right? But I was fortunate to have supporting parents who, supported me in whatever I wanted to do.
right.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's very important. And being in a sense second generation, that means a lot to yourself, I bet too. No, it does for me and Rick to have that you're I guess furthering your parents' knowledge and likes and such with what you do. Even though it's a little different, it's still in that same realm. So
yeah,
It is. I'm not sure if it's a good thing to comment, but I've heard that what makes human beings special is the transfer of knowledge. If you look at any other animal, they're born and they forget what their ancestors learned. They start all over again. But with
right.
humans, we learn something and our next generation takes it forward from us. And that's how probably we are so developed and better, technologically developed than other creatures.
And
you know,
hearing you say that probably sounds like that drives you in some sense to keep going with what you're doing, right?
yeah. And this kind of a theme that has gone through this conversation this morning has been, as I see it, growth. And we're seeing the evolution of Photoshop, the evolution of our talents, learning and growing. And it just triggered a thought in my mind that you seem to be alluding to, Unmesh, that there was a motivational speaker, Charlie Tremendous Jones is his name. And
Okay.
he said, you're going to be the same person you are in 5 years, with the exception of two things: the books you read and the people you
Mhm.
associate with. And I think that's just really important, and an important message, because that covers the whole array of life, just in the terms of growing. And to that point, when it comes to teaching, Unmesh, do you find it more of a challenge to teach beginners as opposed to some that are more advanced? And maybe what are some of the hurdles that they encounter or have to overcome?
One thing as a teacher, you understand as well is that not everybody has the same level of understanding any concept.
Very
Some people need a little more help to understand, while some people, without even explaining, just by looking at it, they just get it. Some people, you just hand over them a brand new phone, they figure it out in 5 minutes, while
Mhm,
some people may need some more assistance.
mhm,
So, what I am good at is breaking down concepts. I know this. I'm not good at a lot of things. I may not be the best photo editor. I may not be the best image creator or an artist. But what I am good at is breaking down concepts in a way that even a child can understand. And I have a lot of fun doing that. And that's why I got into the profession of educating.
uh,
And it's always fun for me. And sometimes I would just raise my hand to say something, and back in the school days, and the teacher would call me to the blackboard, and she would say, "Okay, why don't you explain the concept?" And I would just enjoy, having an audience and explaining the concept and breaking it down in a way that they understand. And it was always fun for me. I always loved speaking
uh,
to an audience.
yeah. And I would imagine that you get quite a bit of enjoyment with in-person type teaching because of the energy and the feedback that you must get.
Right, you know that it's different. You're meeting real people, you get to shake their hands, you get to hear what their problems are, you get to personalize your answers. It's just a different thing. While
Mhm.
on the internet, it's fun. You can reach more people, but you kind of have less of a connection than an
Yeah,
in-person
yeah.
class.
Yeah, I agree with that. When I've done some Zoom presentations and all of a sudden you're the only one in the room and you have no feedback and you know whether is everybody still there? And you come back to the room and you're hoping people are still in the room, and but you're
Is
right.
everybody still there? And
Yeah,
most people are just listening. They're
yeah,
not saying
right,
anything. They're listening. And in a live interaction, you can just, look at people, talk to them. It's just not possible over Zoom. And
right.
I kind of noticed that with when COVID hit.
Yeah,
Um, there used to be a conference called Photoshop World. I'm not sure if
right.
you're aware of.
Well, I've been to it several times when it was still,
Wow.
yeah,
That's awesome.
still a
I
thing.
was there in my early days. Early days, it's hard to say whether I should use the term early days because I've been in this career for just 7 years. So I went to a couple Photoshop worlds when I started going. An interesting story how I got into Photoshop world, but maybe that's for a different topic. But when COVID hit, they turned it online, and I kind of missed teaching at Photoshop World in person.
Sure.
And I missed all the conferences that happened. And I feel that it doesn't have as much of a connection and, feel good, um, nature of meeting people, making friendships, and just making new connections
Well, I think that's
online.
just what you're going to find when you come and join our Colorado Springs group. And we just had a meeting the other night, and it's just the camaraderie is incredible. It's just everybody knows everybody. Everybody starts out with hugs and high fives, and it's just that right there alone. And I know Rick and I we've gone to so many national PPA national conventions, and that we actually go. I don't, and I probably shouldn't say this for our followers. We don't really go to too many classes because we're busy visiting with our friends.
Wow.
Yeah, I like to think of these meetings and conventions, even whether it's a local level or our state or guild or what have you, as well as our national, that it's more of a reunion than it is a convention. And and so
Yeah.
much can be learned anyway. We hear this all the time. You can learn so much out in the halls as
Right.
sometimes you can in the actual presentation.
And you never know when somebody would say something that would catch on to you, inside or
Absolutely.
outside the class.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Somebody who's in the same business as you would say the same thing, or somebody who's in the same profession as you or in the same movement that you're with, they would say something that would completely change your world, change your mind. You never know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, just sharing their experiences gives you a different point of view and maybe something you've already been doing, but a different way to do it. It just
Mhm.
really is pretty exciting. So very cool.
Thing with this is you do classes, in-person classes. With my profession being on social media, it's kind of, I would say, a lonely job. Lonely job
Sure.
in a way that you're always in a studio behind the camera, talking to the camera. So these conferences are amazing outlets to finally go ahead and meet the people who are your peers, meet people who have learned from your videos, or meet people in class. It is just an absolute fun for me, especially being
Yeah.
in this profession of creating content on social media.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, while it's a very cool thing, it is definitely different than what Rick and I grew up with doing, going to conferences and doing programs for conferences where we're standing up in front and the people who are watching us are 12 feet away. And it's
Mm.
friends and, new people and the room is full or not full. Totally different point of view. The interactivity and the feeling you get from sitting and looking at the camera and wondering if anybody's still out there.
But, and um, I do want you to have an opportunity to blow your own trumpet on this one. I mean, you've got such a tremendous following. To what do you attribute that? I mean, there's tons of other educational videos out there on Photoshop and other softwares. What do you think sets you apart that you have such a great following?
I think I should take my own advice on this, because it is easy to lose track of this thing. And that is consistency. I've been consistently creating videos, and that has resulted. You see the numbers. I don't look at the following more than the number of videos I have made. So far, making 900 videos is a big thing for me. And consistently doing it over the years is what I think has rewarded me in other ways as well. For example, it has made me better at communicating. It has made me better in Photoshop. And I'll let you in on a little secret. 90% of what I know in Photoshop is what I learned after I started teaching.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that one.
Yeah.
Well, cool
That's
though.
interesting. That's interesting, Unmesh, because we hear all the time. At least I have, as I've been growing up, that the teacher learns more than the student.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more, because you have to
absolutely.
prepare for the students, and that in a way that you're absolutely educating yourself.
Yeah,
Right,
and
right.
repetition of saying that, teaching it over and over again, kind of thinks maybe this does work. I'm
Yeah,
teaching
to
it, it
become
must
a
work, right?
teacher, you better learner.
Yeah. Well, Unmesh, what do you think sets you apart? I mean, we were looking at something the other day, and the numbers of podcasts that are out there the number is in the millions.
Mm.
Online sources, I think there's like 1.4 billion websites,
Oh my
all kinds
gosh.
of topics, doesn't matter. But there's such a huge amount of, and you sit on YouTube and you type in a subject, and you'll come up with 50 different videos on that one, how to use one Photoshop tool. What do you think sets you apart? Because you do have such a great following, and it is a lot more than several other people. What do you think sets you apart?
The one thing that matters the most in any kind of content, whether it's a podcast, a video, and again, algorithms can do crazy things. And many of my videos have not gone viral. It has been a steady growth of doing so many videos. And right now, the audience are a little on the low side because of, the AI and things. But
Right.
again, staying consistent throughout all of these years, no matter what the situation. Number two is doing it because you love it, not to, please anyone else or to please the people who want content from you. No, doing it because you love it. And I genuinely love teaching. That is the most important part. I genuinely love giving information. And, knowing that people would get value from it is most important to me. And the third thing, I think it's a big thing, and a lot of people speak about this, is that is the audience getting value from this video?
Right.
Is it changing their life in such a way? Is it blowing their mind, or is it adding something to their life? And if it is, that content is good. Even if, let's say, very few people have watched it and it has changed their life in a way that positively, they would all, follow you for your next video, follow you for your next content. So I think it mostly depends upon value, the what kind of value people are getting from, consuming your content, and
Yeah.
how big of a change is the value making in their lives.
Well, what I find interesting is you script your videos, you uh, film your videos, as we would say in the old days. Uh, you teach, you do your own editing. You're in demand for podcasts such as this, and we're so grateful for that. Um, you set up your own sets. You get the work done. Unmesh, when do you sleep?
It's a good question, but I do get a good sleep. Things have changed. Things have changed, especially these days. I've taken the time to focus on other aspects of my life as well. Earlier, I was in college when I was doing this, so I would wake up at 3 a.m., plan out the video, shoot the video by 4 or 5, and then go to college. And I used to live, so back then I was in Mumbai, and I used to live a little outside the city so that the rent would be cheaper. So I took a train, a local train at 5 a.m. It used to take 2 hours for me to get to college.
Goodness.
Then after college, 2 hours from the train back
Right.
home, and then edit the video and release it by the evening. That was my routine for at least 3 years, two
Wow.
to 3 years.
That's
What a
impressive.
work ethic. What a work ethic. And
I was
boy,
gonna say, yeah.
that's
So But
impressive.
now that time I used to release 3 videos a week. These days, maybe 1 video a week, because there are other things that have come up. Like I have to respond to emails. There's Patreon. There's the events that I'm doing, or working with Adobe, or so many other streams that have come up that I have to pay attention to. And that is why it has kind of slowed down these days. And and these days I'm also focusing on my health too, because
Good.
I damaged a lot of my health trying to do that, to the point where I had to go to the doctor for my back, even as a young guy. So
Ooh,
it took
And
a
you
lot of
know,
exercising and stuff to, get
good.
back
right,
in.
Yeah,
right.
definitely take care of yourself, because you get to this age, well, shoot, you get to your 40s. You wake up in the morning, why does my knee hurt? And no reason, and it does, and it messes up the day. And it just does.
And that triggers another thought physically. It's very tempting, Unmesh, for any of us to sit at the computer all day.
Right.
Um,
Right.
what are your thoughts on that that you can share with as far as an hour at a time, get up, walk around? What are your thoughts on that?
First thing you need to do, get an ergonomic chair,
Okay.
Okay.
period. That is the most important thing. I mean, this is your passion. This is your bread and butter. This is how you spend most of your time. I believe in spending most of your, I believe in investing more according to how much time you spend on it. If
Yeah.
you spend a lot of time with your computer, invest in a good computer than buying, an expensive car, because that is what's, bringing you more business. That is what is your passion,
Good
right?
point.
So invest more in a good mattress, because you spend 1/3 of your life sleeping. So these things matter. So in a way, when it comes to computers, invest in a very, 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 very good ergonomic chair that gives you a good lumbar support, and it has controls. I have one I've been using for 3 years, 4 years. It has good controls that can adjust the lumbar support. If you need some rest, it can lay down a little bit for you. It has neck support here that can help you rest your neck, and it keeps everything ergonomically well. That's number one. And as a photo editor, as somebody who edits videos a lot, I have to spend long hours with the computer. So it can easily lead to a very, very sedentary lifestyle. I have a sedentary lifestyle. So involving yourself in something that makes you active. For example, I go out every other day. I would go to the gym, work out a little bit, and that is what I do. So I think people have to decide what works for them. Maybe it's a sport, maybe it's something else, something just to get out
Yeah.
and do something active in your life. I think these things are very important to me. What about yourself?
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. It's just you get to a point where you rely on your routine, or I shouldn't say rely, but we fall into the routine and maybe we don't go and walk or we don't go and work out. And all of a sudden, 3, 4 months have gone by and you wonder why your back hurts. You wonder why it's hard to stand up and you think, oh yeah, I quit. So it's that I think it's more of the exercise in thought of keeping the routine alive and not just,
Another thing, I learned it from my doctor. I'm so sorry to interrupt.
no, you're fine.
And that is doing back exercises very,
Yeah.
very regularly so that
Especially
you
when you're
don't have,
sitting. Yeah.
right. As you sitting, you can do some exercises in the morning before you start your work. It really helps. I mean, it actually helps in a way that is very, very significant. I had gotten to a point where I could not ride bikes and or where I could not go to the malls and stand for more than an hour. It had become impossible for me.
Wow.
But
Oh,
these exercises, going to the doctor, going physical therapy, getting active in the gym, completely, entirely fixed it. And I have been healthier than I've ever been, even as a child. So it's just making a routine of things and just doing it regularly and doing it because you feel good. I think it's very important. And recently, I've also been focusing a lot on nutrition, eating what, makes you feel good, actually, eating what makes you more active or gives you more energy.
Right.
I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but I love deep fried food. There is no doubt I experienced that a lot in America. And one of the things that I was shocked to know about was they had a cheese block they deep fried and served. Sorry,
oh,
not cheese blocks as well, and butter as well, fried butter. That was the
Yeah.
thing it's I
They'll
was
fry
like,
anything here, man.
oh my gosh, what is that thing? I love the taste of it. Every time I go, I would have something fried, maybe a fried chicken or fried chicken wings or something like that. I'd love that. But eating that on a regular basis is not just bad as in for health, but also it makes you feel very tired just
Yeah.
after you've had them.
Yep.
So
You don't
just
think very
keeping,
clearly either.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just keeping note of what you're eating that will give you energy during your work.
Yeah, well,
And we
I like.
want you to come to America, but you better be careful of every restaurant's going to kill you around here.
Well,
I
there.
love
I think. Go ahead, Unmesh.
I was just saying that the first time I came into America, one of the things I fell in absolute love with was ranch. It was my first time experiencing ranch, and every restaurant I went to, I just put in a lot of ranch in my salad or whatever that I was eating. I would dip ranch in it, and I took a bottle of ranch back home and even tagged in Hidden Valley. I posted a photo about it, and Hidden Valley actually responded to that photo,
Sure, I
so that
bet.
was a big, big thing for me. Yeah, you were saying something?
No, I was just going to say there are really at least two truths in life. Baby anythings are cute, and you can deep fry anything and enjoy it.
Come again? What did you say? The first thing that
Baby, yeah, baby, little baby, like a
yes,
little
yes,
Anything.
yes,
a puppy, a little human baby.
yes.
Baby anythings are cute.
Right.
It,
And deep fry. Oh, I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
and
Deep
you,
fry just makes anything tasty. There is
yes, it
no
does.
doubt
Yes, it
about it.
does.
So,
I mean, you
Unmesh,
can
if you
deep
ever
fry an
get
onion and have blooming onions. That was just
that's
boom.
good stuff. There's a restaurant in Memphis, Tennessee, if you ever get there, and their big thing is that they supposedly have never changed the oil in their deep fryer. And obviously it's changed, but we're talking like almost 100 years. But they deep fry everything. I mean, you can order a cheeseburger and they'll deep fry the whole thing and bring it out.
Gosh.
Even you can order an ice cream dessert and it's deep fried first. It'll make you sick. It's so good.
Your
Oh,
your your art your arteries will be begging for mercy.
Yeah, no kidding.
in actual literal terms, it is something to actually die for.
And promise you will if you do it enough. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
Oh my goodness.
Oh gosh.
Rick, how are we doing on time, sir?
We're just about there.
I mean, we can talk to this guy all day. I know
Oh,
he's
no
got stuff to
kidding.
do, but
No kidding. But we value your time, Unmesh, and gosh, what a wealth of information that you've shared and going to be sharing with our Colorado Springs colleagues. Um, how can what is it that people need to know about you to not necessarily contact you, but get
Hmm.
access to your videos, to
Content.
teaching your
Yeah.
yes,
content? Yeah, yeah.
I've been making a lot of
No.
content on Instagram as well these days. So if somebody's into shorter videos and tips, they can go to Pix Imperfect Instagram.
Okay.
Or if you want to learn something, take the time for it, YouTube. And if you are an absolute beginner and you want to start from scratch, I have a beginner series course on YouTube. So you can watch it for free. And you can go to my channel, Pix Imperfect. Inside of that, go to playlist. And there's a playlist called Photoshop for Beginners Complete Course. Click on it and start watching. I won't ask you for your emails, just watch. I want you to learn. That's all.
right.
It's very gracious of you and generous for sure.
Or
Absolutely.
you can go to learnphotoshopfree.com and it will take you to that playlist.
Learn Photoshop 3. Is that a number 3 or the word 3?
Learn Photoshop free.
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 My bad.
Yeah.
Very cool. Wow, good stuff. I'm really excited to have sat with you today and chatted, and thank you so much for your candid view and just your and I tell you, going back a couple of comments here, we were talking about what makes you sets you apart. I think it's first of all, I know Rick will agree with this. He definitely has an old soul. You've been around the block a few times, and it shows your comfortableness and you're just willing to help, but it's very alluring. And that smile, man, it draws everybody in. So keep that up. I think that's definitely a plus, and I think that's why you get so many viewers because it's enjoyable to watch you. It's very whether you learn something, whether you look at something, and say, "Oh, I know that already," or you everything you say is something brand new. It is very enjoyable to sit and watch your videos. So I thank you for that on my own personal
Thank
learning
you so
level.
much.
So
It's true for everything. You do photography, and if you love it, people would see it. As long as you actually like doing that thing, it just shows, it comes through. Same with what I do. I absolutely love, really, really love teaching. It makes my day.
shows.
And that is why it just, I'm happy in front of the camera. And whether it's a camera or a live audience, I just love it. Um, a lot of us get into professions with other agendas, and that's fine. I'm no one to judge. But when you do it because you love it, it's a completely different thing. It's a completely
Absolutely.
different playing field.
Absolutely.
Couldn't
Yeah.
agree more. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And my hope for you, Unmesh, with your visit to the United States next month, is that you'll be able to have that extra time to maybe connect with your family in California.
Oh, unfortunately, I wouldn't. But let's see. Let's hope for the best. I really want to. Let's hope for the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will be actually there again, um, in North Carolina in July
Okay.
Good.
Have
for
you been to
another
North Carolina before?
never
It's a
for
beautiful
another
state.
PPA affiliated event.
That's a
Oh,
Uh,
great
I
group
think
down there.
they're doing Carolina Photo Expo,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to be there as well, doing another
it's
class.
So there's
it's
another restaurant there that has some great deep fried food I can let you know about
Ah,
in
sure.
Raleigh.
yeah.
Oh, sure.
It's a
Right.
beautiful state and wonderful people in North Carolina. Real Southern hospitality.
It's a part of the United States and even Colorado Springs that I haven't been to. So far, I've just been to places like New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, mostly the big cities where the big
Right.
offices are or
Right.
the big
Right.
events are.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we call ourselves real America. So we have some people out here, but there's some land that is not populated and it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well,
Would be interesting to see. See you there.
yeah. The saying here in the United States is Wyoming has more sheep than they have people.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
is it the place Wyoming? Which place is that?
It's
That's
just
north
north
of
of Colorado. It's the state just
Okay.
north of Colorado. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
yeah. Yeah. And if you ever
I'm
if you
screwed on
look at
my
a if
board
you do a
geography.
Yeah, look at a map online on a Google Maps or something, and you'll see pretty much the Mississippi River and a little bit to the west, and there's, I forget, it's 80% of the population is over there, and you come out to where we are, and that's why I moved out here from Chicago, because there's just nobody. It's great.
I've been to Chicago for a flight change, and what was shocking to me when I first went to the United States was how I saw it in the movies versus how it is in real life.
Mhm.
In the movies, you always see big skyscrapers, big buildings, a lot of people on the
Sure.
streets, the yellow taxi and whatnot, because they always show Los Angeles, New York,
Right.
and San Francisco, and all of these limited cities. But when you go to the US, it's mostly straight highways, big, I would say one store, conventional, what do you call it? The stores where you get the regular stuff,
You mean like a
groceries,
mall?
convenience stores.
Oh
Convenience
yeah,
stores.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
like Costco,
Costco. Yeah, yeah.
and stuff. And
Sam's
that's
Club.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. This has been
Yeah.
such a treat and a
Great.
pleasure for me personally, Unmesh, and I kind of alluded to that a little earlier, that not only the talent that you have and the way that you express yourself and the passion that you have and your philosophical point of view. I think, well, I know, you're just the whole package, as
Yeah.
we say. And I am very, very grateful for your time. And I'm sure that our colleagues will appreciate this podcast and learn much from it, as will our colleagues in Colorado Springs next month. So thank you so very much for taking the time out to visit with us.
Thank you for having me. I had loads of fun talking to you. It's just such a refresher. Thank you.
Good. Well, we appreciate that. We just have a lot of fun in what we're doing, and we're so excited I'll be posting this video on our site and on this Colorado Springs site and just sharing it. And hopefully the people and most people will wait till the last minute to sign up. That's just kind of how things go. They wait till the last minute to sign up thing, but maybe this will get them excited to go and register and come and meet you in person and just sit and listen to you. I'm excited for that. So thank you, sir, so much for spending time with us today and putting up with our shenanigans as we do. And it's been very interesting, very, very enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you. I wonder where the shenanigans were, but it was just so much.
Well, the people that know Rick and I, they would be able to point them out. So
Thank you for watching the Image Critique Show with Jeff Johnson and Rick Avalos. Learn more by checking them out at theimagecritiqueshow.com.